So welcome to Straight Talk, the Daily Tribune's more or less regular program on issues that affect all of us. This morning we have with us the PAPCOM NCR Regional Director and Advisor for the National Program for Population and Family Planning, Mr. Lydio Español. He will he will give us a short statement and then we will proceed from there.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Trina. Good
Trina
morning,
also.
June. We're happy to be invited here in your station. We would like to say as an opening message that our president is indeed very sincere in the in addressing our problems on population, and of course, family planning is a strategy to address this seemingly overpopulation in our country. We are experiencing a lot of congestions, people congestions, aside from traffic congestions. And of course, environmental problems like pollution on air, in the air, including noise pollution, including water pollution, land pollution, etc. As a consequence of too many people in our country, especially in the urban areas like Metro Manila.
Okay. First of all, I will have to admit my own ignorance on the population policy of the Philippines. So will you please walk us through what that
Yeah.
policy is?
Actually, yeah, thank you, Sir Jun. Actually, we have the RPRH law, or the Responsible Parenthood and Reproductive Health Law. This was signed in December 2012 by former President Benigno Aquino.
Mhm.
And luckily, now with this RA 10354, it has experienced a lot of temporary restraining orders from the Supreme Court.
A lot of
Yeah,
opponents.
opponents, simply because it is branded as unconstitutional by many of the opponents, basically the Roman Catholic Church, because they said that we might end up having abortions, no? But we would like to assure everyone that abortion indeed is not part in any of the modern family planning methods that we are offering. Abortion is illegal in our country. And of course, we have several methods or types of family planning methods that are being introduced. These are ranging from natural to methods on spacing, long acting, including permanent methods in family planning, and none of these methods could be considered as abortifacient, because that was the issue, of the opponents, that we might introduce abortifacients and abortion might be legalized, but it will not in any way happen.
What is the most popular form of uh, family planning method that Filipinos are using?
Yeah, very popular among the all the methods in family planning is pills. Pills is
Okay.
very much popular, but unluckily, pills is not the answer of the need in family planning, because according to the surveys that we conducted in several years, over the past years, I'm referring to at least two major surveys, the 2013 and the 2017 National Demographic and Health Surveys, and there are other surveys as well, usually done by in the areas of academe. But what transpired is the need for long acting and permanent methods. It means that there are more need now to stop giving birth than to space, in their pregnancies, and so pills is just a method for spacing,
Mhm.
so it does not answer the need for stopping birth.
So it makes the question: Are we? Is the Philippines overpopulated, or are we growing in terms of population as in a less than an ideal? I mean, more than the ideal
Yeah,
number.
okay. That question is maybe hard to answer, but if we compare our performance with the neighboring Southeast Asian countries, we have how many countries we have in neighboring? Nine, about nine, all in all, yeah. We are second to Indonesia. Indonesia has the biggest land area, and I think Indonesia is part of the top 10 countries all over the world in terms of
size.
the population size. And our land area is similar to Malaysia, about 330,000 square kilometers. But the population of Malaysia is only 32 million. Ours is 107 million at the start of the year, and by the end of this year, we are expected to we expect that we will have 109 million. That's 2 million per year added.
Added.
Yeah,
Net.
net.
Net
Of course, there
addition.
are those who die, about 500,000,
net,
but
net.
that's already net.
2
And
million a year.
around 2 million. That's 3 babies a minute. We are reproducing. We reproduce very quickly.
Like
No,
rabbits.
even Pope Francis, when he was here in the Philippines, he was interviewed going back to Rome while on board the plane, and he was asked, "What is your impression about Filipinos?" And he said that Filipinos breed like rabbits. They reproduce very quickly. And yeah.
Why is that bad?
Well, it is sort of bad in a sense that our economy is not able to cope up with the
More mouths to feed.
with the need, from the range of social aspects to economic aspect. So far, our country is not able to meet the requirements.
Sir, excuse
We
me, sir.
have very
I
high poverty incidence.
actually saw a graphic illustration in which the population growth of the Philippines is trending down.
Yeah, it is. No, over the years,
But
even the
1.5%.
average number of children, yeah, we are now at 1.5% growth rate. That's population growth rate annual. We used to have about 10 years ago 2.3%.
What is the global
And
average?
the global average is very low.
Zero?
No, not zero. About going to replacement, about going to 1.1 is
1.1.
the ideal, which means that we are at
We're
the,
too high. in
yeah,
other
we're
words.
too high, 1.5. It means that on average, the average number of children, like in the Philippines, in the urban areas, Metro Manila, Metro Cebu, Metro Davao, the average number of children is 3, but the desired number is 2. So we have a surplus of 1. The one child is unplanned, mistimed, sometimes unwanted. And in the rural areas, the desired number is 3, but then the actual number is 5. So
those
we
things
have
are
extra 2
normative,
children.
desired. How is that actually computed?
Yeah, that is based on asking questions in the survey, like how many children you would like to have, and they will tell you, I think I like to have just 2 children.
Because
And now,
this is the number that I can feed.
yeah,
And,
the ideal
okay.
number.
Okay.
And now, what is the actual number of children that you have? And they will respond, right now I have 4 children. The others will tell, I have now 3 children. The others might tell 5 children. But going to the average, in the urban areas, the average number is 3.
In urban areas.
Yeah, in urban areas. In the rural areas, it's 5. So what happens now to the extra children? The government cannot do something about those
We cannot
extra
kill
children.
those
We cannot,
excess.
of course.
Okay.
But the most that the government can do is to put interventions, like, because it results to
Interventions
increase
like-
in the poverty incidence of the country. Earlier I mentioned about Malaysia. The poverty incidence in Malaysia is only 0.6%. Ours is ranging from 21 to 23%. So almost 1/4 of our population are poor, And so we have this 4-piece program. But the problem now is it is already a law, the 4-piece program. The question is, how long shall we have this seemingly
Subsidy.
yeah, this is subsidy, but this is
Subsidy.
mostly of dole out.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, how long shall we have this program? Shall we have another program that might address the fast increasing number of people that we have in our country? Over the years, the average number of children in the 70s is 6, and now we are having 3 children. But it takes us so long to reduce the average number of
So we
children.
practically have the number of children over
Yeah,
time.
so we yeah,
So
we
in that
reduce it
sense,
by half.
the population policy is in fact successful.
Yeah, it is successful now from the time that is
I mean,
it was
effective,
introduced
not effective.
na in the 70s or in the late 60s until now in
It
such
used to
a
be
way.
6 and then it's now down to
Yeah,
3.
it's now down to 3, but it took us so long. In our neighboring countries, like just to cite some few countries, Korea, for example, or for example, Thailand, for example, the average number of people added to the population is just 200,000 every
We
year.
do 2 million.
Ours is 2 million. So we can just imagine the the fast growing population that we have. So as a result of the analysis of the relationship of poverty and the
Is that something
size of
cultural or just
the
limit of
family, actually it is something to do with the culture of Filipinos. Filipinos think that okay, in my old age, when I become senior citizen, I have my dual citizenship. I have my children, to support me. Maybe I just ask from one child, I'll ask a certain amount, and then from another child another amount, and then put that together, and that would become my pension. Pero we would like to change that
Social
culture.
security.
We would like to change that culture.
These are the guys who will feed me in my old age.
Yeah. And so the whole chapter 13 of the Philippine Development Plan talks about achieving demographic dividend. Demographic dividend is just a concept, but it's easy to be understood. Like, we cannot do something about the generations now. I mean, those who have more children than they desire, than to convince them to stop giving birth anymore. To stop means they either be ligated or on IUD or on implants, not to add anymore another child, but the investments is on the new generations, maybe the millennials, maybe the generation Z. What do you think about, what do we call that new generation? Yeah, so anyway, the whole chapter of 2013 talks about demographic dividend in such a way that by 2022, that's by the end of the administration, our families will have 2 children. In that case,
Are
they
we
are
on track
able.
to that number?
Yeah, that's a challenge. Based on the performance in the past of the family planning program,
We're still
it's
at present.
reducing. Yeah, because right now we have 3
Three.
children in the family.
And by the end of the President Duterte's term,
Yeah.
it should be 2.
2, especially among the young generations.
Are we on track or are we not on track?
Yeah, that's a very challenging task that is given to us.
still a
The president issued executive order number 12.
Challenging meaning that number hasn't moved from where it is.
Yeah, it starts to move because the program now is really going from one house to another, explaining about the advantages of having just the small family
which
size.
method is making that possible? Is it the IUD, the condo?
Yeah, there are several
fields?
combination of methods, but I think we have to start on the background. The president issued executive order number 12, and it is about zero unmet need for modern family planning. He signed that in the
What's that?
zero unmet need for modern family planning. It means that
In English, what is that?
actually there are 4 conditions for a woman or a man to be considered to have unmet need for modern family planning. Number one, that person has to be sexually active. It means that that person has to have a partner. Secondly, despite of being sexually active, there is no modern and scientific family planning method that is being used to prevent pregnancies. So no use,
unplanned pregnancy.
yeah, no use of any modern family planning methods. Number three, if the method that is being used, just in case there is, that method is traditional. These are calendar, just the counting of days. 7 days before menstruation, 7 days after menstruation, but it's not scientific. There is scientific behind that. That's why it is now being improved in the natural family planning methods. And so that's the third one, use of traditional method. Number four is they really say that despite of our need for family planning, we're not able to access for whatever reasons, like my husband, the woman might say, my husband is not agreeable in the use of family planning. Or in my
He
church,
does not like to wear condom.
yeah,
Or the
or in
wife
my
doesn't take
church,
the pill.
it is being repeated over and over in the sermons, not to use any family planning method because it's
It is sinful.
against the church or our religious beliefs. For whatever reasons, like I don't have money to go to the nearest facility. We are poor.
How does the government
so-
manage to
Yeah, and so in that,
moderate the blunt impact of the religious convictions
Yeah.
of people?
so yeah. So in that case,
yung objections of the Catholic bishops,
Yeah.
for instance, or even the Christian bishops.
okay, so in that case, since the president already issued that, there has to be some, in some instances, there are frictions that we encounter with the church.
That friction is
But-
being effectively managed by.
Yeah, right now, because we're dealing now with the church in terms of the natural family planning methods. There are at least 6 methods which are under the natural family planning methods. And these methods,
Which the church and the religious.
yeah, and they
clergy,
agree
yeah.
on that use of those natural family planning methods because it is within the natural law. I mean, the context of being natural. There are no injections. There are no pills that you have to take every day. I mean, for the women. There are no surgeries. There are no side effects, of course. And so they are amenable in the use of natural family planning methods. And aside from that, the advantage of having the natural family planning method is that there will be close communication between the couples because they have to discuss on what certain day the woman is fertile. And luckily, in the survey that was conducted in 2013 among young people, 24 years old and below, because it was in a young adults fertility and sexuality survey conducted by the UP Population Institute, only 15% are able to determine the fertile period. And so,
With a degree of accuracy.
yeah, the degree of accuracy. It means that 85% of those 24 years old and below, 85% are not able na
Wait,
to
that's a big
determine
number.
the fertile
That's a big number.
day. It's a big number. Yeah. And so if it happened that
You would continue to have babies at that number.
yes. And aside from that, in that same survey, 78% of those who are doing premarital sex, that is before the marriage happened, and they are doing it, 78% are not using any protection. No protection at all.
No condom, no
No
nothing.
condom.
No pills.
No awareness on the
No awareness.
fertile period. And so they might have the love making on the fertile period and they are not aware of it.
So, sir,
And so that's the reason why we have we're happy to note now, by the way, that our teen pregnancies for 15 to 19 years old are going down. It's going down. But
Due to?
maybe access to, because for example condom, it is now being accessible to
7-Eleven.
adolescents in the context of HIV and AIDS program.
So it's
Ah,
already
so
tied
you're
to
just
that.
scaring people
Yeah.
away. So
In that
you're
in
warning
that way.
people that if you engage in sex and you're not protected, you will get
Yeah,
HIV
HIV.
or
And
STD or
it's
whatever.
increasing right now. Actually, it's increasing. 32 cases a day.
In other words, people are using it because they're afraid.
They're afraid
Not because they
of the
know
pregnancy.
it's the responsible thing to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
other thing is something that we are worried about is the 14 years old and below.
What?
The
14 years old
incidents,
engaging in
yeah.
sex?
Yeah, engaged in sex. And we
Oh
have
my,
records.
I'm
Yeah.
old.
We have records to show that's coming from the city health and the municipal health offices.
14
These are
years.
actual records, and the incidence of the teen pregnancies among 14 years old and below is increasing.
Sir,
And
so
that
what
is
are,
something worrisome.
what are the moves that we have to be able to you mentioned earlier you're going house to house. So what do we do when we go house to house? How do we educate
Yeah.
households on this particular advocacy on curbing population growth?
Yeah, actually at first there was an issue once from the ILG, because the ILG is the overall in charge in ensuring that local governments are
Implementing
able to
agency, in other
follow
words.
and implement the national policies.
Mhm.
And of course there are two major policies that are issued.
Mhm.
Number one is the RPRH law. Second is about the zero unmet need for modern family planning.
Mhm.
And so the ILG also came up with two issuances at least. Now, one is for the designation of a volunteer in each of the barangay all over the country. It means that for a smaller barangay, at least one. But for bigger barangays, it might be more than one to cover the entire population of the barangay to go from one house to another. But of course, there are trainings that are provided to the barangay population volunteers. And in most cases, they are the barangay health workers. And POPCOM is doing the trainings, providing the retooling or the capacity building. And of course, the Department of Health is ensuring that all the public health facilities are responding to the demands. Because if the barangay health worker or volunteer will go from one house to another, knock at the door of those houses and ask if they have members in the household who are within the range of 15 up to 49 years old. The coverage right now is all women. Unlike in the past, the coverage is just for married women. But right now, all. No, so all of them should be educated on the different options in family planning. Of course, they will have to ask, uh, do you have a partner? No, just to establish if they are sexually active. They have a partner. In some cases, they might not admit.
Yes.
That's our problem. But then, if they're married, and they are living together, for instance, then that's the time that we can really assume that they are really sexually active. And then they will ask, do you have children already? If they will tell no, how many children you would like to have? And then of course, if they will tell how many children, uh, uh, when do you intend to have your first child, and then the second child, and so on. Because the campaign right now is to have a spacing of 3 to 5 years, yeah, birth spacing. And if it happens that uh, the one that is being interviewed or being discussed with, I mean, nakausap na, about that, will tell that they have already enough number of children, then they have to go directly to certain methods that could address now, whether to stop giving birth or at least to postpone for the next how many years now within the birth spacing period of 3 to 5 years. And if possible, all of them are able to access family planning methods, and they are provided with mobilization support. Uh, uh, Among regions in the country, there might be varied amount because that depends on the daily wage, regional wage rates. For acceptors of, for example, ligation or vasectomy, there is a 1 day lost income amount that will be given. That's only for the indigents. No.
Okay.
So,
Since we're in the subject of cost, I'm interested in knowing what is the cost to government in pushing for a population program versus if government versus the cost that the government would have to underwrite if it did not have
yeah, right.
a
That's a good
population program. Do you have that number?
yeah, that's a good question because right now I can directly tell you that for the problem alone of teen pregnancies, I mean the consequence.
Without a population
Yeah,
program
without, I mean, even if there is a population program, still
and
we have
people.
the teen pregnancies that are happening. But
Mhm.
there was a study conducted by the UP School of Economics,
Okay.
and it was found out that 34 billion is being lost every year in the economy simply because those who underwent teen pregnancies were not able to catch up
Contribute.
with the necessary average amount that they supposed to earn, no. And so
So in other words,
putting
contribute
all
to the
together,
economy.
yeah, putting all together
34
all
billion.
those, yeah, those income that were supposedly forgone, no,
Mm.
forgone because they underwent teen pregnancy, and then later on they were not able to finish schooling, and then they were not able to get the job that could provide them with the income that is based on average income of the rest,
And
no,
how
of
much
those who are
is
not.
government?
It's 34 billion, but
How much
yeah,
is government spending for all of this
it's just very
program?
low because based on the we call it uh, CIP, that's costed implementation plan.
Mm.
It means that the plan that is being costed implementation plan for family planning up to 2022, the requirement is just 3 billion per year.
Wow,
3 billion.
what a big difference.
And the consequence is 34
Sa cost
billion.
and benefit. Laki
But
pala ng
that
cost.
34 billion is just only for adolescents. That's only for the teen
Teen-
pregnancies,
Ah,
not including the
The
beyond
adults,
the 20, I
the
mean,
mature people.
beyond the 19 years old. The 20 years old and above, we do not have a study yet on how much is being lost in the economy. So, looking at the cost benefit analysis of 34 billion lost every year compared to the requirement of just 3 billion every year. So it's a so much big difference.
And yet the church people they're objecting
Well,
to what you guys are doing.
yeah, they object in the reason that we are introducing abortion in the belief that the methods that are being introduced, the artificial methods,
Has
are
government
causing
actually
abortion, but it's not. It's
has
not.
government actually tried to approach these religious guys and engage him in dialogue and explain
Yes,
to them that this is not really.
actually, there are several meetings with the bishops, particularly with the CBCP, the Catholic Bishops Conference of the Philippines. I think starting about 5 years ago until now, there are from time to time there are discussions on the importance of implementing a family planning program in the country, for of course for several reasons, and one of the big reasons really is on poverty alleviation. How can we uh, get out of from poverty, among our people, and they are convinced on that aspect, but I think we have differences on the method, the kind of method in family planning that we should introduce, because they only accept natural family planning methods. we're talking about the Roman Catholic Church, because the other churches, they're open. Now, even now, we have engagements with other
may mga
religious sector.
That's surprising that that only the Roman Catholic Church is the one opposed to all of these
Yeah.
methods.
Why is that?
So, yeah, why?
The Muslims in Mindanao, the Barm areas,
Mm.
we have this fatwa. Fatwa, it is a collection of all the verses in the Quran
Mm.
that might support the family planning program. And we have this written fatwa that is being signed by many of the religious leaders
In Mindanao.
in Mindanao, that they support the implementation of the family planning program, not only on the natural methods, but likewise
The
on
artificial as well.
artificial as well. Now, although
So,
not much, not much in terms of acceptance of the artificial methods,
so
but in the
you're
case
saying
of
the Muslim clerics are the more
yeah,
compassionate and
they are
intelligent
more
than
open.
The Christian ones?
Yeah, I think so, because like for example, going back to my example in Malaysia, Malaysia is basically a Muslim country,
Mm.
but they're able to implement a very strong family planning program. So that's why they are very successful, no, to the extent that if you can just imagine the Philippines, no, even Metro
Okay.
Manila, because they have just 1/4 of our population size with the same land area,
Mm.
So we can just imagine that if we go to EDSA, we will reduce the volume of traffic by 3/4. By 3/4.
That's a lot.
Even the people around, we just reduce it by 3/4.
Mm.
And that's how we can imagine Malaysia. And that is a Muslim country. And so we can say really that Muslims, although their views is that we don't need family planning because we're just very few, we are part of the indigenous people, and if you introduce family planning to us, we might end up having just very few people among ourselves.
Okay.
But for the Roman Catholics, we do not know really, no, because what they are after of is not on artificial. They are open to family planning, but just exclude the the artificial methods.
Okay. This is all interesting discussion, but we're pressed for time. I will just ask you one question, and then we're going off the air. The question is, how successful is if you were to rate it, would it the population program? I mean of the government, is it successful, less than successful, or is it a failure?
We cannot say that it's a failure. It's successful, but maybe a range of 1 to 10, maybe we are at around 6, going 7. We have still a lot of I mean, we really have
To do more.
to double our efforts, to reach 10, if we are able to reach 10. But
In terms of educating people,
yeah, in terms of
providing
educating
them with the
people,
means to do it.
yeah,
Okay.
because the problem with us with dealing with people is how we let them understand the changing the custom or the beliefs of the people, that they don't need to make their children as investments in the future. They can live without their children. I mean, without their children, still they can survive.
Yes, so I think that's also that's a different shift of paradigm shift, thinking that your children are supposed to be the one that provides you your retirement pension.
Yes.
And what with with all of these programs that we have for people who are just starting families, what message can you also say to those who already have that kind of situation? They already have a lot of children. They maybe are planning to have more. What can you
Yeah.
say to them?
Yeah, I think what I can say is it's not too late.
To adapt.
Yeah, to plan for their
To plan,
families.
yeah.
If they have more children than they desire, then it's time for them to stop giving birth. And if they are still on the process of having children that they desire, they can space at least they can space their births. They can plan for 3 to 5 years birth spacing in such a way that it will not become a burden, in the
You're not
financial
asking people
resources
to
of the
stop having
family.
sex.
Yeah,
You're just telling people to be more responsible.
yeah,
with
to
it.
become responsible in their sexuality. And for the students, whoever wherever they are, if they are viewing our Facebook live, our message in Popcom is really piliin ang pangarap, wag ipagpalit sa sandaling sarap. They have to choose wisely na I mean,
Well, that's a good
between having
good
the
one.
small pleasures and their future. They have to choose their future and never exchange it with some pleasures like premarital sex or drugs or smoking or drinking. All of these vices, smoking, drinking, drugs, peer pressures, are leading towards practices of premarital sex and the consequence of teen pregnancies.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
We had a,
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you so
you.
much.
we
for
would
that.
like we would have liked to extend the discussion
Thank you so much, sir.
beyond what we already did, pero wala.
It's very good to have this discussion because it's very rare that that we learn about these kinds of challenges that the government is trying to mitigate, and we're happy that you were able to impart to us this particular message, and also at least to our viewing public to be able to be aware
Yeah.
of these programs that we have.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so
Yeah,
much,
thank you
sir.
so
Thank
much.
you.
And
Thank you.
maybe you can invite us again.
Yes,
Again,
sir.
oo.
Sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.